Let me ask you a question, and I want you to answer it with brutal honesty. When was the last time you focused entirely on yourself, not out of ego, but out of responsibility? When was the last time you silenced the noise of the world, ignored the distractions of other people's lives, and looked yourself in the mirror to ask, what do I really need to become the person I was born to be? This is not a rhetorical question. It is the doorway to everything you've ever desired: freedom, peace, wealth, purpose, respect. Most people never walk through that doorway. They hesitate. They look around, trying to gather opinions, waiting for validation, asking for signs. They live like satellites, orbiting around other people's expectations, other people's timelines, other people's voices, and they forget one eternal truth: no one is coming to build your life for you. You see, I didn't become the world's first billionaire by accident. I became that man because I made a decision early on, a decision to focus 100% on who I needed to become. Not to impress others, not to compete, but to build something unshakable within me. I studied myself like an empire in construction. Every weakness addressed, every strength reinforced, every emotion mastered. That is the real work of wealth. Not the dollars in your pocket, but the discipline in your soul. Now, let's set something straight. This isn't about selfishness. This is about clarity. Because when you focus on yourself, you eliminate confusion. You see what matters. You remove the fog. And you begin to operate with intention. You stop asking questions like, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? You stop chasing opportunities and start attracting them. You stop reacting to life and begin to orchestrate it. That shift from external to internal focus is the most powerful transformation a human being can make. And yet, so few people do it. Why? Because focusing on yourself forces you to face uncomfortable truths. It exposes how much you've avoided, how much you've compromised, how many times you said yes when your soul whispered no. But that is where your power begins. I remember my early days: no inheritance, no safety net, just a burning desire to rise. Every morning, I'd look in the mirror and say to myself, you are your greatest investment. No one will fight harder for you than you. And that truth remains. You want a better life? Then you must be willing to do what most won't: become a ruthless protector of your time, your energy, and your vision. You must begin to track your habits like a banker tracks his accounts. You must treat your attention like currency, because every distraction is a withdrawal from your future. Let me be clear. Your mind is your business, and every thought you entertain is a transaction. So ask yourself, what kind of transactions are you approving? Doubt, guilt, comparison? Every time you indulge those thoughts, you are bankrupting your potential. But when you focus, truly focus, everything changes. I built Standard Oil with relentless attention to detail. But I built myself first. I knew if I couldn't govern my emotions, I could never govern a company. If I couldn't manage my impulses, I'd never manage millions. You may not be building an oil empire, but you are building a life, and that life will only rise as high as your personal standards. So raise them. Stop waiting for someone to notice your effort. Stop hoping for applause. Stop asking for permission. You don't need approval to change. You don't need consensus to evolve. What you need is decision. A quiet, unwavering decision to make yourself the project of your life. That means you stop pouring your energy into drama that doesn't pay dividends. It means you stop explaining yourself to people who haven't earned access to your world. It means you stop negotiating with distractions that have robbed you long enough. Let me give you a challenge. And I do not offer this lightly. For the next 7 days, I want you to behave like a person who believes they were sent here for a purpose. Not casually, not when I have time. No, with full intent. Wake up and ask, what does my future require from me today? Move with that question in your heart, because every empire begins with internal alignment. You've been focusing on everything else for too long, trying to save everyone, explain yourself to everyone, please everyone. Now, it's time to come home to yourself, and here's what you'll find. When you focus entirely on becoming stronger, clearer, and more grounded, everything in your life begins to respond. People respect your boundaries. Opportunities multiply. Clarity returns. And the noise, it fades. Not because the world gets quieter, but because you get stronger. That's the shift I made. I stopped chasing validation and started developing vision, and it changed everything. So let me ask you again, what would happen if you focused 100% on you? What would happen if you honored your schedule like it was sacred? If you treated your energy like gold? If you stopped explaining your dreams to people who live in fear? You would change. You would grow. You would become the kind of person that no one can ignore. Not because you're loud, but because your life becomes too solid to shake. Now, before we go further, I want you to do something for yourself, and for everyone watching this journey with you. Comment below one decision you are making today that proves your focus is now on you. Just one. Declare it. Because there is power in declaration. And when you state your direction, your mind begins to organize around it. Let me tell you something that no school will teach, no mentor will say up front, and no friend will dare to repeat. You are not overwhelmed, you are unfocused. That's a hard pill to swallow, I know. But the truth rarely comforts at first. It confronts, it challenges, it exposes what we've ignored for too long. Overwhelm is the byproduct of scattered energy. A person who is focused is never overwhelmed. They may be busy, they may be stretched, but they are never lost. Because focus creates structure. Focus generates momentum. Focus simplifies everything. Now imagine what would happen if you reclaimed every ounce of energy you've spent thinking about other people's timelines, other people's judgments, other people's noise, and invested that same energy into you. Not just your goals, but your health, your faith, your standards, your personal discipline, your mental clarity. Do you have any idea what you could build? Let me make it plain. The only thing standing between you and everything you want is the discipline to focus entirely on becoming who you need to be. When I started, I didn't have billions. I didn't have applause. I didn't have connections. But I had something far more powerful, a vision so clear that it kept me moving when everyone else stopped. And where did that vision come from? It came from within. It came from solitude. It came from focus. That's what most people avoid today. Being alone with themselves. They drown in noise. They run from silence. But let me tell you, if you can't spend time alone, you will never know who you really are. And if you don't know who you are, you will build a life that doesn't belong to you, that the world doesn't need another copy. It needs a man or woman fully aligned with their mission. Someone who operates not from trend or fear, but from principle. So ask yourself now, what are my principles? Not your opinions, not your mood, not your desires. I'm talking about the non-negotiable codes you live by, even when no one's watching. Because that's what focus looks like in real life, living by design, not by default. I lived by a few principles that governed everything I did: frugality, precision, integrity, long-term thinking, faith, consistency. I didn't need to be perfect, but I needed to be grounded. Most people think they lack motivation. No, they lack alignment. Their actions contradict their values. Their goals contradict their habits. Their dreams contradict their environment. That creates internal war. That war produces stress. And that stress leads to escape, scrolling, eating, blaming, quitting. But what happens when everything inside you is moving in one direction? When your decisions match your vision, and your habits match your identity, you become unstoppable. That's what I want for you. Not just productivity, but power. The quiet power of knowing exactly who you are, what you're building, and why it matters. But power is never accidental. It is the reward for focus, for repetition, for saying no 1,000 times so you can say yes to what actually builds you. Let me give you an image. Your mind is like a garden. You can plant seeds of discipline, of wealth, of clarity. Or you can let weeds grow, distractions, doubts, drama. But you cannot have both. And here's the key. Your garden grows whatever you water. So what have you been watering? You want clarity. Start by eliminating. Eliminate the conversations that drain you. Eliminate the habits that delay you. Eliminate the distractions that divide you. You don't need a better morning routine. You need fewer emotional leaks. You need fewer arguments that don't matter. You need fewer comparisons with people who are not running your race. That's what I learned early. I didn't compete. I constructed, quietly, daily, with full intensity. While others chased popularity, I chased position, not to be seen, but to be solid. That's what I'm inviting you into now. A life that is unshakable, a mind that is clear, a soul that is focused. But it starts with one ruthless commitment. This is my season to focus entirely on myself, not to escape responsibility, but to embrace it, not to withdraw, but to build, not to abandon others, but to become strong enough to lead them. Because here's what no one tells you. When you rise, you don't just lift yourself, you lift everyone connected to your name. But you cannot pour from an empty vessel, and you cannot guide from a broken map. So stop apologizing for taking time to grow. Stop hiding your discipline. Stop explaining your silence. The cocoon is not a retreat, it is the preparation for flight. Some will misunderstand you. Let them. Some will say you've changed. Celebrate that. Some will pull away. Bless them. Because if you want to rise, you cannot cling to what was. You must become, and becoming always begins alone. So I challenge you again, for the next 30 days, remove everything that fragments your focus. Set a standard so high that only your future self can reach it. And remember this, your future is not determined by who supports you, it's determined by who you decide to become. No matter who supports you, that's the mindset of every empire builder. That's the soul of every true leader. And it all begins with one decision. I will focus 100% on me. Now, tell me in the comments, what are you going to eliminate this week to protect your focus? Just name one thing. Let's build this momentum together. There's something deeply unsettling about watching your life pass while your potential remains untouched. Not because you aren't capable, but because your energy is scattered in 1,000 directions that don't belong to you. You wake up, check your phone, and before your feet touch the ground, your mind is already consumed by someone else's opinions, someone else's highlight reel, someone else's emergencies. You live your day reacting instead of designing, surviving instead of leading. But what if I told you, every ounce of greatness within you is waiting on one thing: your attention. That's all. Not more followers, not another opportunity, not even more knowledge. Just your undivided, uninterrupted, unapologetic attention. When you give yourself that level of focus, your life begins to reassemble itself. Let me explain something that I observed in every stage of building my empire, and I want you to tattoo this on your mind. The most dangerous threat to your future is divided focus, not lack of money, not lack of time, not even adversity. Divided focus is what drains strong people. It is what turns warriors into warriors. It is what makes gifted people feel stuck, overwhelmed, and ashamed. Because no matter how much talent you carry, if you're trying to live 5 lives at once, you will never dominate in any. So let's get brutally clear. What do you want? And are your current actions aligned with that outcome? Because, I assure you, clarity without commitment is a fantasy. And vision without discipline is a form of self-sabotage. Focus is more than blocking distractions. It's about closing the back doors to your old identity, the part of you that procrastinates, the part of you that seeks comfort in chaos, the part of you that overcommits to the world and underdelivers to yourself. You cannot keep feeding that version of you and expect evolution. You want your life to shift. Then starve your distractions. Starve your excuses. Starve the need to explain yourself and feed your focus. When I built Standard Oil, my focus was obsessive. I knew where every penny went. I tracked every detail. Not because I was anxious, but because I understood this principle. What you don't manage, you lose. The same is true of your time, your attention, your habits, your peace. So let's go deeper. What have you been tolerating in your life that is draining your energy? What habits are you justifying that no longer serve you? What relationships are you keeping out of guilt that are robbing your potential? To focus on yourself is not selfish. It is stewardship. Because you cannot build anything worthy from a place of emotional depletion. That's why I protected my time like it was treasure. I said no to what didn't serve my long game. I avoided small talk that led nowhere. I studied people in silence. I built in private. And when it was time to move, I moved with force. That's how focused men think. That's how empire builders operate. And it's exactly how I want you to begin operating. Today, not next week, not when life calms down. Because, if you're waiting for life to calm down before you start focusing on you, you'll wait forever. The storm doesn't end, but you can become stronger within it. And that strength begins with removing everything that keeps you stuck in mental clutter, because here's a truth most never realize. A cluttered life is just a reflection of a cluttered identity. When you don't know who you are, you say yes to everything. When you're unclear on your mission, everything becomes urgent. When you're not rooted in purpose, every invitation looks like a path. That's not a life, that's a maze. And mazes don't build wealth. Mazes don't create peace. Mazes don't develop leaders. But simplicity does. Discipline does. Vision does. So, if you feel scattered right now, don't reach for another book. Don't seek another opinion. Strip it down. Simplify. Ask yourself, what are the top 3 priorities in my life right now? And am I living like they actually matter? And if you're not, change it. Silently, firmly, immediately. Because your peace isn't found in perfection. It's found in alignment, when your actions match your values. When your schedule reflects your vision. When your mind supports your mission, peace becomes automatic. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to help you return to yourself, to remind you that the version of you that you've glimpsed in those moments of clarity, of solitude, of fire, that version is not a fantasy. It's who you were always meant to become. But that version only emerges when you stop negotiating with distraction. When you choose deep focus over shallow living. When you walk away from comfort and choose growth over and over and over again. That's the real investment. And it's the only one with guaranteed returns. Because, no matter what happens in the economy, no matter who comes or goes in your life, you will always rise to the level of your personal standards. So raise them. You don't need anyone's permission to start focusing on you. You don't need to wait for everything to be perfect. You don't need to be healed, ready, or approved. You just need to decide. Because the life you want is already waiting. It's just waiting for you to become the person who can handle it. And that process begins now. There's a moment in every serious person's life, a quiet, private moment where the noise finally fades, and a single question remains. Am I building a life that honors who I truly am? Or am I just performing a version of what others expect me to be? You can't fake your way through that question. Your soul knows the answer before your mouth can speak. And if you sit with it long enough, if you stop running, you'll feel it. In your gut, you've been giving away pieces of yourself, in exchange for nothing. That's what happens when you forget to focus on you. You drift. You shrink. You become a watered-down version of your potential, surviving on borrowed dreams and diluted values. But here's what I want you to hear. The person you were born to be is still there, not lost, just buried beneath the weight of distractions you never needed to carry. You don't need another course. You don't need another motivator. You need space to think space to feel space to remember what matters. That's what I created for myself, long before I was known, long before I had wealth. I carved out space in my life to protect my inner world because I knew this one truth: if I lose my clarity, I lose everything. And so will you. You cannot build an empire with a scattered mind. You cannot lead a family, a business, or a future if your mind is pulled in 100 directions. That is the cost of divided attention. Not just fatigue, but forfeiture. That's why focus must become sacred. It must become your new religion. Not just a productivity hack, but a standard of existence. And here's where most people go wrong. They think focusing on themselves is a temporary season, a reset, a break. But it's not. It's the foundation of everything. Let me be clear. You do not graduate from self-focus. You master it. You deepen it. You refine it. But you never abandon it. Because the moment you stop tending to your inner world, weeds grow. And those weeds, insecurity, distraction, resentment, they don't just slow you down. They quietly destroy you. So what does it really mean to focus 100% on you? It means you wake up and own your emotions before the world tells you how to feel. It means you track your behaviors like an investor tracks a portfolio, not with judgment, but with precision. It means you plan your days with the gravity of someone who understands that time is your most expensive currency. It means you listen less to people who aren't living the life you want, and more to the silence that reveals what you're meant to build. Let me tell you something. Few will say you don't owe anyone your presence if they continually disrespect your future. You don't owe constant access to those who drain your focus. You don't owe updates to people who never invested in your growth. This is the season of quiet exits, of intentional boundaries, of building without broadcasting. Because the less they hear from you, the more they'll see from you. That's how I built my legacy. Not through noise, but through relentless internal focus. And now I want you to do the same. Stop telling everyone what you're about to do. Just do it. Let your transformation speak so loudly they'll have no choice but to listen. And I want you to understand this. The world doesn't need another loud voice. It needs anchored ones, souls so rooted in purpose, so consistent in discipline, so immune to trends, that their very existence becomes a mirror. You be that mirror. You show the world what happens when someone goes all in on self-mastery. No shortcuts, no compromises, no pretending, because that version of you, focused, disciplined, precise, that version is untouchable. And let me tell you what happens when you become untouchable. You stop chasing, and you start choosing. Choosing peace over panic. Choosing growth over gossip. Choosing clarity over confusion. You begin to act from your future, not your fears. And that is when momentum shows up. Not as a reward, but as a reflection of alignment. That's what people saw in me. They thought it was luck. They thought it was power. No, it was alignment. I knew who I was. I knew where I was going. And I knew what I was building would outlive the noise. So let me give you this final word. And I want you to carry it with the weight it deserves. Your life is your greatest enterprise. Treat it with the respect, discipline, and focus it requires. Stop outsourcing your value. Stop delaying your decisions. Stop diluting your identity. You have everything you need to become unstoppable, if you can stay focused long enough to access it. So today, reclaim your focus like your life depends on it. Because it does. Let me speak to the part of you that still hesitates. The part that wonders, will it be worth it? The part that fears what it means to focus fully on yourself, to let go of distractions, to rise in solitude, to say no so you can say yes to your higher calling. I'll tell you what, no one else will. It will be hard, before it becomes holy. At first, it will feel like loss, like separation, like isolation. You'll miss the noise. You'll question your silence. You'll crave the comfort of your old rhythm, but stay with it, because what you're really feeling is the death of who you no longer are. And in that death is the birth of your real self. Not the reactive you, not the performative you, not the version of you shaped by survival and guilt. No, I'm talking about the unshakable version, the grounded one, the focused one, the one who doesn't beg the world to notice because their results make noise without speaking. That version of you is not found in another book, another mentor, another strategy. It's forged in quiet mornings, in uncelebrated discipline, in moments when no one's watching but you still show up like the whole world depends on it. Because here's the truth I learned building my fortune. The world eventually moves for the person who refuses to move for the world. When you stop flinching, it respects you. When you stop explaining, it follows you. When you stop chasing, it circles back to ask how you did it. But none of that matters if you don't finish the work inside first. So let's finish it. Let's seal this commitment. You are not here to impress anyone. You are here to evolve. You are not here to live out someone else's fears. You are here to embody your vision with precision, strength, and calm power. You are not here to play small, because playing small is not humble. It's a form of selfishness that deprives the world of your light. Let me remind you what happens when you focus 100% on you. You stop tolerating chaos. You stop managing dysfunction. You stop participating in conversations that drain your genius. You simplify. You purify. You sharpen. And when the fog clears, what's left is the clearest version of your soul, ready to lead, ready to impact, ready to endure. That's the version the world needs. Not your imitation, not your performance, your essence. But you can't access that essence when your mind is scattered. So this is where the journey begins, and where the transformation is sealed. You wake up tomorrow, and you no longer hope to become that person. You decide. That's it. No conditions, no begging, no waiting, just one clear, immovable decision. From this day forward, I will honor my future by focusing 100% on me. You build a morning routine that grounds you. You build a system that protects your time. You build habits that reflect where you're going, not what you're escaping. And when the world tempts you to look left or right, you look in the mirror instead. Because that is your compass, that is your command center. Not comparison, not applause, not reaction, just you. Fully aligned, fully locked in, fully surrendered to the work of becoming. You want the real reward. It's not the money, it's not the fame. It's not even the legacy. It's the peace of knowing that you became the person you were always meant to be. No shortcuts, no compromise. That's the prize. And when you win that, everything else aligns. The relationships, the resources, the recognition. They're drawn to the person who no longer needs them to feel whole. That's your power now. Unshakable identity, unapologetic focus, unstoppable direction. So here's how we close. I'm not going to wish you luck, because luck is irrelevant when you live like this. I'm going to leave you with this command. From one builder to another, protect your mind like it's the vault of your empire. Guard your focus like it's your crown. And live every day like your future is watching, because it is. You are not alone on this path. Thousands of us are walking it, too quietly, deliberately, fiercely. And if you've made the decision to walk with us, to lock in, to focus, to rise, then share this message with someone you care about, not for clout, not for credit, but because this kind of fire spreads. Subscribe if you haven't. But more than that, stay committed, because the world may reward distraction, but it will always bow to discipline. And now, it's your time. The empire you seek isn't somewhere out there, it's within you, waiting, watching, ready, finish the work.